Hello everyone and welcome back to the part 5 of the light tank series where I rank light tanks from 7.0 to 7.7. And before we get started, I gotta thank you guys so much for the love and support, it's pretty awesome. And if this is the first time you're watching me and you like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe and let's get started. The T92. This American light tank is the successor to the M41 Bulldog. It has similar firepower with a faster reload, but instead of the AP, it fires HFS in addition to APCR and APDS. This tank has probably the most unreliable selection of shells in the game, but HFS is probably the most effective. It can penetrate up to 254mm of armor regardless of the range, and despite being hit or miss sometimes, it is the best option compared to APCR and APDS. The APCR is useless as usual and is the shells that you start with first when you get the tank. Having APCR as stock makes it very painful to unlock modifications for this tank, especially the APDS and HFS. APDS is better than APCR in terms of penetration, but it's still underwhelming sometimes. Despite the excellent penetration, it tends to struggle against angled armor, and when it penetrates the target, the post-paint damage is mediocre and will usually do no critical damage. Sometimes the shell goes through the target, misses every crew member, and then the enemy fires back and it's over for this tank because it has no significant armor. It's thin and the tank rarely survives a direct hit, so it's always better to play stealthily by flanking or ambushing targets. However, the engine and transmission are at the front, so they can help save the tank sometimes. The 340 horsepower engine gives the tank respectable mobility, with quick acceleration and a top speed of 57 km per hour and roughly 8 km per hour in reverse, allowing the tank to reposition rapidly and disengage when needed. This mobility works well with the firepower, making the T92 effective in ambush and flanking roles, but it requires careful aiming. You gotta be consistent and target enemy weak spots, ammo racks, or disable the gunner or breach to ensure they don't fire back. The tank also comes with a turret-mounted 50 cal machine gun, but its limited traverse makes it largely ineffective in direct combat. It's best used for spotting, tracking enemy tanks, or finishing off lightly armed targets. B tier. The T114. This tiny American tank is very unique. It's armed with a 106mm recoilless rifle that fires high explosive anti-tank grenades that can penetrate the thickest armor you can find at this E.B.R. The recoilless rifle is mounted in a turret with a 3-round magazine and a semi-automatic loader that allows the tank to fire and have a quick 2.5 second reload that makes it very deadly. However, once the 3-round magazine runs out, the reload becomes much slower and it takes time to refill the entire magazine. But with that being said, I've noticed it's faster to reload the semi-auto loader compared to the French auto loaders. Moreover, the T114 is amphibious and has excellent mobility. It's very fast and can quickly reach flanking position to take down the enemy without being seen because the low profile helps it stay hidden. And when playing with light tanks, it's always better to rely on mobility instead of armor, because when it comes to armor, the T114 is as fragile as you'd expect from a tank like this. It is very vulnerable to bombs, SPA, CAS, basically anything. The T114 was designed to be lightweight and fast and was even intended to be deployed by aircraft for airborne operations. A tier. The Schützenpanzer 12-3 Leichtgeschütz. This German infantry fighting vehicle is based on the HS-30, which was one of the first IFVs in the world. It's armed with a 20mm autocannon and a recoilless rifle, the same one we saw on the vehicles like the T114, M50 and Type 60 SPRG. The autocannon is mostly useless, firing HE and high-velocity AP rounds that can only tickle most targets and are limited to dealing with lightly armored vehicles. While it can technically engage aircraft, the gun elevation is mostly useless because it's very restricted. The recoilless rifle, on the other hand, fires HE and heat shells, making it extremely effective against any tank at 7.0. The main downside is the reload, which can feel a bit long, so if your first shot doesn't do the job, you'll need to retreat to move quickly to avoid retaliation. Fortunately, this IFV has a low profile and a good mobility to help compensate for its weak armor. B tier. The RU-251. This German light tank prototype is like a baby leopard and it was designed as a replacement for the M41 Bulldog. It's armed with a 90mm BK-90 cannon capable of firing HE, HESH and HFS. The armor is very thin, but that hardly matters for a tank like this. It's got a low profile and exceptional mobility because it can reach up to 80 km per hour and it can reach that speed very quickly thanks to its powerful engine. This allows you to move around the map with ease, striking targets while staying on the move. On top of that, the tank comes equipped with smoke grenades, reliable gunner objects, and a reverse gearbox, so it can always disengage quickly and escape from dangerous situations. Overall, the RU-251 is an excellent light tank that combines strong firepower with exceptional mobility, making it a menace on the battlefield. S tier. The Luchs A2. This armored recon vehicle is very pointless. It's armed with the same 20mm autocannon seen at much lower BRs, which is mainly effective against aircraft and almost useless against tanks or anything with decent armor. It does have access to APDS rounds, which can deal some damage when flanking enemy tanks, but most tanks at this BR range have solid armor on all sides, further limiting its effectiveness in combat. At 7.3, the Luchs A2 is essentially limited to scouting, tracking enemy tanks, or simply having fun driving a very fast machine. Despite its weak main armament, this recon car does come with some excellent features. A reverse gearbox that allows it to reach up to 90 km/h both forward and backwards, strong objects, and a thermal imager for the gunner. On top of that, the Luchs A2 comes with 2 drivers, so if one gets hit, you won't be stuck in place waiting for the enemy to finish you off. While this combination of features makes the Luchs A2 solid for recon purposes, in actual gameplay it's largely ineffective, serving more as a tool for getting more assists than kills. F tier. The Marder A1. This is one of the classic tracked IFVs developed by West Germany during the Cold War. It's on the same 20mm autocannon that I end up using mainly for anti-air purposes, but what really makes Marder stand out is the Milan HEGM launcher. The Milan missiles are deadly and can reliably destroy any heavily armed targets at this BR. Unlike the keyboard-controlled HEGMs on the Type 60 ATM, the Milan missiles are mouse-guided, faster, and significantly easier to use. They are still fairly easy to spot and not that hard to dodge, but when you hit the right spot, the target stands no chance. On top of that, the Marder has excellent mobility and a reverse gearbox allowing you to engage a target, retreat quickly, and relocate to ambush another target. This hit-and-run playstyle can work extremely well throughout a game, if not for a few drawbacks. If you are on the move and want to fire the HGM, you must come to a complete stop, and that can be deadly, especially during surprise encounters. Additionally, the Marder only carries 4 missiles, so you're forced to resupply often, and heading to a capture point usually means putting yourself in danger. The Marder has no significant armor, and it will be an easy target, especially to enemy aircraft. Thankfully, the 20mm autocannon can still deal with planes and lightly armored vehicles, and you can always deploy a smoke screen when in danger. The Marder also comes equipped with a laser rangefinder, though it's practically useless given its weapon setup. A tier. The BTR ATA. This Russian APC is one of the most annoying vehicles to deal with in the game. It's armed with a 30mm autocannon firing AP, APDS, and HE rounds. The BTR only carries 2 150 round magazines, but the rate of fire is moderate, so it doesn't run out of ammo as quickly as other autocannons in the game. The stock AP can penetrate up to 65mm of armor, and once you unlock APDS, the BTR becomes far more effective. It can penetrate up to 80mm of armor, and most tanks have thin armor on the sides and back, allowing the BTR to easily exploit that weakness. It is extremely fast in a straight line, reaching up to 87 km/h with a decent reverse speed, but its H-wheel design makes it feel sluggish when turning or repositioning. Compared to the German wheeled vehicles like the Puma or Luchs A2, it feels noticeably less agile, and this can work against you when trying to retreat or outmaneuver enemies. Another drawback of the BTR is the usual terrible gun depression, and it can only carry 1 belt of APDS, which is rarely enough for a full game. I usually pair APDS with HE or a mixed belt in the second slot, since the BTR can also handle aircraft reasonably well. When it comes to survivability, it's exactly what you'd expect from an APC. The armor is thin, allowing the BTR to survive AP shells sometimes, but when it comes to bombs, SPA or CAS, it offers no protection. That's why it's always better to stay on the move and flank targets instead of facing them head on. Overall, the BTR is one of those vehicles that come out of nowhere and destroy you or destroy your barrel before disappearing again. And you would easily go to S tier if not for its drawbacks. B tier. The Type 87 RCV prototype. This Japanese recon car is the prototype version of the Type 87 that we'll see at 9.0. It's armed with the familiar 20mm autocannon, which by now is almost on every light tank. And the Type 87 is at 7.7, which makes it even more useless. The Type 87 has a 6x6 wheeled light chassis that allows it to be very fast and agile, so you can scout targets and destroy some tracks, but as soon as you get spotted, it's over. Because the armor is practically paper, it can't survive anything. On the plus side, the Type 87 comes with smoke grenades, 2 drivers, and a decent reverse speed, so you can quickly escape when in danger. And honestly, that's what you'll be doing most of the time. F tier. The ZTS-63. This Chinese amphibious light tank is an improved version of the Type 63. It's under the same 85mm Type 63 cannon, but it can now fire an even stronger selection of ammunition. It can fire APHE, HFS, and APFSDS, which can penetrate over 220mm of armor. At 7.7, you face the heaviest tanks in the game like the Mouse and IS-4M, which can withstand the APFSDS, but you still have the HFS with 300mm of penetration for those special cases, though it rarely survives because of its thin armor. B tier. The C13 T90. This Italian light tank prototype is very unique. It's armed with a 90mm cannon that fires HE, HESH, and HFS. The HE and HESH work similarly, while the HFS gives the necessary penetration to deal with heavily armed targets. It's still not as strong as other HFS shells in the game, but being able to penetrate 250mm of armor is respectable and can still work well when used correctly. Despite being a light tank, the C13 T90 is surprisingly very survivable. It's got an armor thickness varying between 38 and 50mm around the hull, and while it's not very thick, the C13 T90 has the transmission and engine at the front, and most of the time that placement saves the tank from lethal shots. Unlike the hull, the turret is so thin that it's vulnerable to even light MG fire, but also big AP shells tend to go through it and take out either the commander or the gunner, and while that can critically damage the tank, you can always escape quickly because of this tank's great mobility. It's very light with a strong engine, so it has quick acceleration and it can reach 70 km/h forward, and while the reverse speed is not as fast, it's still fast enough for you to deploy smoke grenades and make a tactical retreat. A tier. The Firos 6. This Italian rocket spammer is one of those vehicles that you either love or hate. It's armed with the Firos rocket launcher system, firing unguided rockets that will either outright destroy a target or critically damage it until you finish it. The launcher pod carries 48 rockets ready to fire without needing to reload, so you can spam targets until you take them out. The Fiat 6614 chassis provides the Firos 6 with excellent mobility, allowing you to move quickly around the map, flank, ambush, or just scout for the team. The armor is just as thin as the other Fiat-based vehicles, and while they can sometimes survive large AP shells, the huge number of rockets stored inside the Firos 6 means it's always one hit away from going off. The launcher pod has slow traverse and can be tricky to aim at first, but once you master it, you can wipe out multiple targets without ever needing to reload. And combined with the excellent mobility, the Firos 6 can overwhelm enemies quickly and spam rockets until they go down. Overall, the Firos 6 is a very fun vehicle that truly shines when you take advantage of its mobility and chaos-focused playstyle. S tier. The AMX-13. This French light tank is the first variant of the AMX-13 family. It's armed with a strong 75mm SA-50 cannon, which is still effective at 7.0. It can penetrate over 200mm of armor, enough to take on most targets even head-on. The autoloader is the cherry on top, with a capacity of 12 rounds and a flat 5-second reload, giving this tank the edge over most enemies, especially when combined with its mobility and low profile. It's very small, can reach 61 km/h, allowing you to quickly reach flanking positions and take out groups of targets without being seen. And of course, being a light tank, the AMX-13 is also great for scouting and earning spawn points for getting planes or even a nuke, because it's very easy to maneuver into strategic positions and be a menace to the enemy. Still, autoloaders always have a drawback. Once you run out, you'll need to wait for it to refill, which can be very inconvenient. Though staying in a captured zone can significantly speed that up, but just because the AMX-13 is fast doesn't mean you gotta play recklessly. The gun is wobbly, so accuracy suffers if you're not careful. Additionally, despite the low profile, the big antennas make it easier for enemies to spot you. Regardless of these minor drawbacks, the AMX-13 is one of the best light tanks in the game. It's very fun and easy to use and can be a menace in the right hands. S tier. The AMX-13 SS11. This is basically an AMX-13 fitted with 4 keyboard-controlled SS11 HGMs. They are very powerful but also slow and tricky to use. S tier. The E.B.R. 1954. This is essentially an MX-13 turret on an 8-wheel chassis, which noticeably improves its mobility. It can reach up to 105 km/h both forward and backwards thanks to its reverse gearbox, making it even more agile. S tier. The AMX-1390. This is the second variant in the AMX-13 development line. It's very similar to the original AMX-13 but comes with a bigger 90mm cannon that's capable of firing HFS with 350mm of penetration, making it very effective at 7.7. Compared to AP rounds, the HFS can be hit or miss, and sometimes it takes more than one shot to take out a target. It still has the same 12-round autoloader, but needing multiple hits to take out a target drains the autoloader very quickly. In terms of armor and mobility, the C13 T90 is identical to its predecessor, so overall it's essentially the same tank with a bigger gun. A tier. The E.B.R 1963. Just like the 1954 version, the E.B.R 1963 uses a similar cannon to the C13 T90, but with a few differences. It's got the E.B.R 8-wheel chassis, making it faster and more agile, but it loses the autoloader. Instead of the flat 5-second reload, the E.B.R 1963 takes 6 to 8 seconds, which feels longer, but it's not really a big deal. The armor and mobility are similar to the previous E.B.R, but the bigger gun means it can deal with even tougher targets. S tier. The AML-90. This French-wheeled recon car is one of the rattiest rats in the game. It's tiny, with a lightweight chassis that lets it reach high speeds very quickly. It's got a 90mm cannon that fires HFS shells with 350mm penetration and can take out almost any tank at this BR. The reload is moderate, but the turret rotation feels painfully slow, especially at 7.7. The armor is probably my least favorite part. It's paper and anything can destroy this rat very easily without even trying. And even if it survives a big AP shell, the enemy can just use a machine gun or just do something like this. The best way to use the AML-90 is to stay sneaky, ambush your targets or engage from long range where you can stay safe. However, hitting targets at distance can be tricky, and with only 20 rounds, every shot counts. And without a rangefinder, all you can rely on is the scouting ability, which helps determine target range and get more spawn points. Overall, the AML-90 is situational. It can be deadly in some maps, but only if you play smart. B tier. The Eland 90 Mark 7. This South African car is the domestic variant of the French AML-90. It's basically the same vehicle, but optimized for African terrain and mobile operations. Unlike the AML-90, the Eland 90 can carry 29 rounds, though I usually stick to 20 rounds, so in practice it doesn't make much difference. It's still tiny, fast and extremely agile, making it perfect for flanking or hit and run attacks. The 90mm cannon is powerful enough to take out most tanks at this BR, but the armor is paper thin, so one bad move and you're back to the hangar. B tier. The Scimitar. This British light recon tank is another rat that's perfect for popping out of nowhere and surprising the enemy. It's armed with a 90mm autocannon that fires HE, SAP and APDS shells. The SAP shells don't have the best penetration, but the post-pen damage is decent, while the APDS shells are very strong and can easily punch through over 100mm of armor, letting you take out targets without struggling to find weak spots. But unlike most autocannons, the Scimitar's gun is one of the slowest in the game, firing only 80 rounds per minute, which I think is a pretty good balance. You can take out your targets effectively without burning through ammo too quickly. The Scimitar also has stronger gunner and commander optics, though the zoomed in sights can feel very disorienting at close range. When it comes to speed, the Scimitar is very fast and agile. It's able to outmaneuver heavier targets and quickly cross the map to find the perfect ambush positions. On the other hand, the armor is thin. It can stop MG fire frontally, but the sides are extremely weak. To survive, you'll need to rely on speed and agility. And if you get spotted or attacked, you can always deploy a smoke screen and retreat quickly because it has a reverse gearbox too. Technically, the Scimitar can engage aircraft too, but the limited gun elevation and slow fire rates make it almost impossible. Overall, the Scimitar is a very effective tank that is always fun to use, especially against unaware enemies. A tier. Alright guys, here is the final tier list. Let me know what you think and make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already.